Hi, welcome to part two. So in this video, I'm just going to go over things that I kind of forgot and I'd go over in part one instead of redoing it. So here's the notes you can access to in the description below. You can go at your own time. I'm just going to go over just real briefly. Um, so description below, you should be able to have access to this file here, well, this one and this one. All right. So it says here in 1 Peter 5:13, she who was at Babylon, believe it's referring to his wife, who likewise chose and sends you greetings, and so does Mark, my son. So that was his son. All right. So they were at Babylon, and people have turned this to mean, oh, that Babylon is code for Rome, and which I believe is false. And so I'm going to go over a little bit more why I believe that is false. Um, for one thing, the language barrier Rome. In Rome, they spoke Aramaic, or they spoke Greek and Latin. Peter spoke Aramaic, and likely probably read Hebrew as well, growing up learning the scriptures at that time. So, so if he went to Rome, he would have a difficult time communicating. Whereas Babylon, Egypt, we can click on this here. I'm going to go over here. Same link. Oops. All right. So they spoke Aramaic between 700 BC and AD 636. Okay, so that was well within the first century. So Peter would have been able to speak the language in Babylon, Egypt. All right, which is right here. All right. I'm gonna turn that on real quick. Okay. So there's Babylon. Now I have to say, every time I do a search for Babylon on Google Earth, I get something different. So at one point it showed up here, so I put a pin there, and now when I do a search, it doesn't show up. So it's very inconsistent, unfortunately. But if we zoom in here in Egypt, I don't know why internet's so slow right now. Wow. Okay. Anyway, there's a Babylon fortress right here. Alrighty. Um, so yeah, so why isn't it showing up? Well, anyway, it's like I said, it's extremely inconsistent. So we have the blue wavy lines here. These are all channels. These would give Peter a lot of options. So you probably lived here or maybe along here, one of the channels. So this is most in all likelihood where he actually lived. All right, he was close to Israel, and this would allow him. So when they're going through the famine, it got more and more severe. You look in Acts, I believe chapter 11, famine started, and it's got worse and worse, all the way to destruction of the temple. And so this would allow him to go back and forth, so he could fish here and collect fish and provide a little bit of food for them, a little bit of relief, but not much. It was so severe. And we're talking, there's about 1.2 million Jews that deny Christ in the flesh, Antichrist, okay? And so most likely try to feed them, and also the Jews came to Christ as well. They were here as well. All right. So they're trying to help out in those last 1,335 days. Let's go back to here. Just blue line right here. Okay, the timeline. Alrighty. These were the final days where the Jews came to Christ, shared the love of Christ with the Jews who denied Christ in the flesh, and then they fled right in that last day. Shortly after, they were surrounded with armies in Jerusalem, just like Jesus said in Luke 21. All right. So anyway, so he had the language barrier. So so Babylon, Egypt spoke his language. Rome did not. All right. So that's one reason why. And then he had the famine. All righty. So one thing we learn in Romans chapter 9, where Paul says, I've been willing to be a curse, my brethren. That gives you an idea of the culture that they were like a tight knit family. Unless you do something against God in their mind, and then they're ready to kill you. Okay, so yeah, so they're a tight knit family, and it's highly unlikely for Peter to be grossly irresponsible while they're going through the famine. Just decide, oh, I'm just going to take off, head out to Rome, all right, and abandon them. There's no way he would have done that, an apostle to the Jew himself. Just no way. That just doesn't fit their culture. Um, so there's no, so like here's Rome way over here. There's no way he would just taken off and left them to dry. Okay, and starving to death and going through the severe judgment. There's no way he'd done that. One person could argue, well, he's trying to maybe persuade the Roman army not to go over there and attack them, whatever. That would have been he turned it back on Jesus and done exactly the opposite of what Jesus said would take place. If Peter succeeded, that would reduce Jesus to a false prophet. So that is so unlikely that Peter tried to even do that. Okay. Besides, he didn't speak their language anyway, but he could have interpreters anyway. But anyway, so the chances of Peter ever being in Rome, is so slim. Chance that he ever even stepped foot on Rome, it just, I don't think it happened. I believe it's all rewrite of history. All right. Another thing I want to point out, Peter was writing to these churches here. Okay, you see it turning on and off. Okay, so those are the 5 churches that he wrote to. And then John, these are the 7 churches that he wrote to, the book of Apocalypse or book of Revelation. Alrighty, notice how they're in a similar area relative to Israel and Rome. Alrighty, so you had the 5. Chances are that Peter wrote. Chances are he knew them and they scattered to these places. Alrighty, this would have occurred in the beginning of that transition period from 30 to 70 AD, and then later on, towards the end of that transition period, more in the 60s of the 1st century, Nero, all likely he started the fire, and then he blamed the Christians for it. So there's tremendous hatred towards Christians all throughout the Roman Empire. Alrighty, so they're getting beheaded, you name it. So, having said that, so Peter wrote around 65 AD. The Apocalypse vision written around 66 AD, about a year later. Alrighty, and so what's going on here? There's heavy persecution, and basically through those letters, God telling them that He's going to take care of the problem. So He's going to take care of the Jews who deny Christ coming to flesh, who are murdering Christians. He's going to take care of them, and He's going to take care of Nero, and sure as heck, the 2 entities came together and basically were slaughtering it out. And so finally, after 70 AD, Jews pretty much dead, 1.1 million of them. About 97,000 were taken as slaves, brought to Rome. As a matter of fact, they were, some of them, about 60,000, built a Colosseum. Okay, it's so easy to get drift off course here. So man, it just goes on and on. I apologize. So anyway, yeah. So the point I'm trying to make here is that these were areas written around the same time. This is who they were writing to. They're not writing to you. Okay, the futurists are really, I hate to say this, I'm not trying to put futurists on the spot. They're guilty of taking these people and shoving off to the side. No, it's about me in the year 2022, whatever. Okay, that's when you do that. When you shove them off to the side, make yourself the primary audience, it creates all kinds of problems. You shift in the setting, and you're not going to get the author's intent. The full intent anyway, might get bits and pieces, but you're not going to get the full intent. And so understand what's going on. All right. So anyway, that's that. And there's a good chance Peter was alive the whole time, south of Israel, right up until the regeneration. Okay. And I encourage you to read the rest of these, especially this right here, to read through this here. This is pretty good. So if you're a futurist, I encourage you to read this. It might make you think a little bit. Maybe I need to look at the Bible a little differently. Maybe I need to stop substituting myself to primary out and start looking at it from their perspective. Start taking time indicators seriously. Pay close attention to grammar and the setting. Don't substitute this, setting in 21st century, but first century instead. Or so that way, hopefully, you will get the author's intent. All right, so I think that pretty much wraps it up. But again, you can read it in your own time, the rest of this. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much, and you have an awesome day.